Hello, and welcome again to another exciting edition of Victory Never Sleeps. Uh, Never sleep, and I had to rest up since the last one. You guys had me on for 6.5 hours last time. That was a record, but it was a really good show, and I appreciate all y'all's participation in it. This is about half an hour of pre-planned stuff, and the rest is fueled by your guys' participation, your questions, your comments. So very appreciative we got such a good audience. On top of the show, just to say, if you guys want to participate in Super Chat, or if you guys want to give us donations, they are very much appreciated. They go to the efforts that the AFA is doing where we need them. Right now, they're going towards paying off Njordshof, which is our first step in getting Freyshof. But yeah, so we appreciate any of that. To do that, you guys got to join us. Well, you can go to our donate link on our website, which is great. But also, you can come watch this over on Entropy. Entropy is a really cool system. It's the one I have up to look and see about the comments on my end. It's really cool. They've always been really good to us. So we'd love to see you guys over there. We're also being broadcast live on Odyssey, YouTube, VK, Twitter. And for folks joining us after the fact, I appreciate all of our podcast listeners who are listening to us on Spotify. We get these episodes loaded every Friday on Spotify, so we appreciate you guys too. I'm trying to think any other top of the show things. In about 2.5 weeks, we have Elsie Fest 3 in Wisconsin. Folk Mother Elsie Christensen, her day of remembrance was yesterday, and in May for the past 3 years, we've gotten together up there. They do a really good job. Folk builders James and Sarah Alt host that, and they do a really good job of hosting an event. And I'm really looking forward to the fish boil because it's delicious. So, yeah. Think that's the news you can use for right now. So today we are going to talk about a unfortunately fairly little known hero of our folk, and that's that he deserves better than that. So this is the first year that we are honoring this gentleman with a day of remembrance, and we are joined. So we are joined by Christian Penner, a folk builder from North Dakota, who's with us. And an amazing artist. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the horns that he's carved. He's carved several horns for our auctions now that are absolutely breathtaking. But before we talk about the subject of our show, Christian, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to Asatru and how you came to the Asatru Folk Assembly?
I started listening to a lot of folk metal. The subject matter is, kind of within our folk tradition and things like that. And wound up reading The Children of Odin by Padraic Colum and was really fascinated. Then I went on to read the Prosetta and, kind of just snowballed from there, And then once I actually got out to meet people at Baldershof, because that was around that time that I had found Asatru. We acquired the building, and I was like, wait, there's other people that believe the same things I do? So driving down to meet them, all the folks at Baldershof was like really, really profound. I was pretty surprised to see that like most of leadership was also veterans, and I was like, oh, I get you guys. I get these people. They get my humor, and I've been a member ever since.
And when was that?
Boy, it was right after. It was the spring when renovation started, I believe.
Okay.
Hmm.
So that would have been spring 2021.
Hmm.
All right. So without further ado, today we are talking about a gentleman named John Gibbs-Bailey, who went by the name of Hoskuld. So can you tell us a little bit about Hoskuld?
So, the reason why his name's Hostgold instead of his kind of real name is that's kind of the tradition that they started. They started using an Odinic name, something that was kind of ancestral, or you had strong influence from like someone who shared that name. From my understanding, all of this is pretty obscure and was pretty hard to dig through and actually find out really any detail about who he was. But so the Odinic rite started in England. I believe some of the early movements started around the 30s, and kind of changed and developed and grew into like the old Odinic rite, and kind of things were set into place as a formal organization in like the 1960s, 70s, somewhere in there. I believe early 1970s. And he did a lot of work with another one of our heroes, Stuba. That's Stubba. And together they kind of coalesced like moral virtues and values, and they came up with what is commonly known as the 9 noble virtues, and kind of set down a framework for a more formal organization instead of like just loosely associated, very independent, localized groups in England.
All right. Well, so you may notice that was kind of short and sweet, and
Mm-hmm.
this is something that's very important, and honoring our heroes and realizing that history happens as we speak. If we don't remember and celebrate our heroes, then they become lost to the past, and that's really unfortunate. So Hoskuld was a young man who found Asatru in the 1930s. By young man, was he in his teens? Was he in his 20s? Was he in his 30s? Couldn't tell you. And all the research that we've tried to do, it seems like no one could tell you. The last that anyone who I've been able to find or any research we've been able to do says, as an old man, he was involved with and around Odinic Rite members in the 1980s. We don't know the man's birthday. We don't know the date that he passed. And we don't know where his remains were laid to rest, unfortunately. Still seek to find those answers. And if anyone out there watching this program has more to offer or knows more, please let us know. But he was a seminal figure in the movement towards modern Asatru, certainly in his home country of England. He was a big part of establishing what we knew as the 9 noble virtues, what are expanded to the 10 noble virtues now. He's responsible for the first 8 of those. And when the Odinic Rite was formed, they added the 9th one. But yeah, from anything I've been able to read, he was a humble gentleman who didn't, wasn't the in front of the camera guy. And so very often he was behind the scenes. He was a treasurer for that organization, and a Gothi for that organization. And yeah, that's what we know. But because of him and the effort that he put forward, what would become the Odinic Rite was founded and was successful for the years that was successful. And we're very grateful for what he put in. It's got to be a really very different experience. We feel sometimes perhaps like we're strange or there's not others like us when we find this in 2023. But I can only imagine what that was like in 1923. So it was really quite a thing. And we got some questions stacking up. But first, Michael donated $5. We appreciate that very much. Hail Matt, hail John, hail the gods, hail our Volk, and hail the AFA. A little something for the good work you do to restore our ancestral faith and our people in it. Thank you very much. And he also tacked on afterwards, and hail Christian too, sorry, for an additional $3. So we appreciate you, Michael. Thank you so much. On the side, and I'm looking over here to see if there's been any clarification, because the first question is a bit confusing, or could be a bit confusing, I'd suppose. From Sam, hi Matt, in your opinion, is the folk a collectively bonded group? I don't know exactly what that means, and I'm not trying to be obtuse, because I'll answer what I assume that it might mean here in a second, but it could mean many things to many different people, and so I want to make sure that I don't that I'm clear in how I respond. Yes, in one sense, we are certainly bonded. We are bonded through the folk soul. We are bonded through our very blood, our genetics, and our race. We're bonded as a people. And so that's absolutely a thing. Now that chops down into smaller circles, and each of those circles has a tighter or a higher degree of bonding. When people talk about the folk at large, our racial brothers and sisters, but oftentimes in an Asatru context, when we talk about the folk, we're talking about members of our faith. And so in that sense, yes, we're bonded by our allegiance to our gods. We're bonded together. When we join the Asatru Folk Assembly specifically, we're connecting with that group, our groups, Haminya, and we're bonded with each other, with our heroes, with the Gothar of the past and the present, and with those of us to join in the future. And I think that's the best thing I have to answer that question. If there's any clarification on the side, I'd be happy to address that though as well. Ali asks, Stian, you're an amazing artist and horn carver. Where do you draw your inspiration from?
Sometimes it's like art from antiquity, like some of like the romantic period stuff. I really enjoy, especially with because I do a lot of portraiture. So for instance, if I was going to do like one of the Aesir, I might look up art that's depicting them and that I could use. Oh yeah, that's one of our folk builders horns with Heimdall and the Yaller horn on there. That was a really fun one to do. And yeah, I think that came from a piece that I saw somewhere. Then I guess the sagas and sometimes even album covers, to be honest. So yeah.
All right. Um, so this question is from Shane. It's for you, Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Is Victory Never Sleeps the best podcast? And are you saying it, or are people saying it?
I won't disrespect their program by doing the Trump impression, but in my opinion, it's my favorite podcast.
I was going to say it's early in the program for you to have a different opinion than that, or we may get the crook out and go to Plan B. I've been really blown away by the support we've had for this podcast, or for the, I don't know if you call the live thing I do on YouTube a podcast, but certainly for both the live and the follow-up audio podcast. A lot of people have been very, very supportive. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback and a lot of participation, and we're very grateful for that. The next question is, do you have theories why there are no photos of Hoskuld? Christian, do you have any theories of why there's no photos of this man?
Just because there's so little known about him kind of leads me to believe that, he wanted to enjoy the anonymity, I guess, like through his work. It's like, I would assume, it's kind of similar to like a pseudonym or a pen name or something, like, writing under a pen name maybe, because like a lot of his writings were really foundational. His work with Stuba.
Sarah, I think there's a lot of things that went into that. So first, he wasn't that jump in front of the spotlight guy, from my understanding. And I think that's a part of it. I also think that we collectively have done a poor job of remembering our heroes as it happens. I think it's very easy to recognize, man, 50 years ago, this guy was great. I wish we had pictures. But at the time, it's much harder to think, hey, let's take a picture of this guy because we're gonna need this down the road. I think that's an afterthought that we all do, unfortunately. I think we don't realize that something is historic until we look at it in hindsight. And so by doing that, I think we lose a lot. Another thing, in order to try to research, it's very difficult. John is an extremely common name. And in the United Kingdom, the last name hyphenated Gibbs-Bailey is also shockingly common. So without more details to go on, it is proven insurmountable for us to be able to find out additional information. We're going to keep digging, and hopefully some new things can come to light. But I guarantee you there's pictures of him out there. We just don't have those pictures. And hopefully that changes someday soon. Carrie asks, how's the horn coming along?
Well, I have a few of them in progress right now. I have one for one of our members in Florida that's actually right on my desk here. So yeah, it's coming along. You can't really see much detail right now, but once the color's added in, it'll really pop. So that's been a really fun one to do. I'm really pleased with it.
Excellent. Well, King of Cheese is on tonight. Matt, Stian, good to see you both on tonight. How are we doing tonight? And Stian, glorious beard. So, Christian, how are you doing?
I'm doing extremely well. I've been looking forward to this for months now. So, good to see you, Tony.
Daddy, what?
My daughter is desperately trying to tell me something, and I have no idea what she's trying to say.
No, Daddy, what, Daddy? What, Daddy?
I don't know about a white doggy. We don't own a white doggy.
What, Daddy?
That's okay. I love you, Obs. Anyways, I'm doing fantastic. You know me. I look forward to this every week. I'm doing great. I appreciate you being on. Yeah, it's good to have you on here. So, from Jason Gallagher, Stian, you are known for your famous hand-carved drinking horns and art, but some people may not know of your hidden comedic talent. Your impression trumps everyone else's. Ha ha.
Daddy, what?
Thank you, Jason. I'm glad that it always makes you laugh so much.
So it wasn't nonsense. It was, in fact, a white dog. It was that dog Marshall from Paw Patrol. She's got this thing and it lights up, turns all these different colors. And I happen to know where it was. So it was not nonsense. I just wasn't picking up what she was laying down. All right. So Brandy asks, Stian, you are quite the sharp-dressed man. Where do you get those awesome ties?
Well, depends. This one's from Amazon. But I do enjoy shopping for dress clothes. So sometimes I'll even go like to a thrift store. You'll be able to like find some really good stuff there. Like I just found a tie recently that has like a lion rampant pattern on it that I was like, oh, this is really nice. And it was $2. So.
You know, it's always good when you get a deal. If you get nice stuff and a deal, you are winning. And I'm certainly a fan of that. So we've got a frequently asked question by Obsidian Skull on here. And he wants to know, have I already seen any of the Sasquatch people? I have no idea. I don't understand this. I've not watched that program. Apparently it's on Hulu. I don't have Hulu. By your insistence, I'm going to have to do a deep dive and figure out about the Sasquatch people because I need to come with a better answer next week. And I will attempt to do so. Nathan asks, Stian, in your own words, what does it mean to be leadership to you? What does it take to be a folk builder in the Baldershof district and for the AFA?
To me, it's really a great honor just to be able to, coordinate on things and help out. I really enjoy taking calls with people. If we get an applicant and I can jump on it, getting to talk to, new people that are kind of familiar with us, but really haven't talked to any of us in person, just seen us online or what have you. I really enjoy that, vetting applicants. As far as what it takes to be, leadership, like I would say, having the time, one, I guess just, being willing to, serve in that capacity, because it is a commitment, and it's one I'm glad to make.
Well, we appreciate having you. Kind of following on that a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about what it's been like to folk build in North Dakota. It's a pretty sparsely populated state. How's that going? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we've made contact with a few people across the Dakotas, and we have, had a few members, now members, a few folks come home. We literally do have more cows than people. That's a real statistic. But, whenever I get the chance to, I guess, make contact with somebody or bump into people, on the street, and they ask, that's always a really cool experience.
Good deal. What part of North Dakota are you in?
I am in eastern North Dakota, so close to the border. Yeah.
All right. So, Allie says, Stian, as a hunter and chef, what's the best tasting animal?
I've eaten just about everything. One thing I really like, one recipe that I've only made, I don't know, probably a handful of times, is pulled pork out of bear is really good. That is excellent. Also roast bear. And if you can get a young white-tailed deer or mule deer, small one, heart is really good. Tastes like about an expensive cut of lamb or fillet. Excellent. And the birds are good eating too. Pheasant's very delicious.
You had me at the pulled pork bear. I haven't had barbecued bear in a long time, and it was delicious when I had it. Have you ever had moose?
I've not had moose. We don't have too many moose here.
You are missing out. Moose is delicious. I miss it so much. I ate a lot of it growing up with my cousins in Fairbanks. They were and still are fantastic hunters, and I was able to get a moose up there myself one time, and God, it's delicious, and you can taste a huge difference. Nathan asks, Stian, would you ever consider shaving your beard off?
Every once in a while, I get that, that inclination, just like, I just want a really cool mustache, and then I think better and don't. But no, it's been 7 years, I think, since I've been clean shaven.
Is that a revolt against your time in the military?
Yes, 100%. I did not enjoy shaving.
Fair enough. I have observed and heard that from a lot of veterans. All right. So Shay asks, what meal would you, and this isn't specific, so we'll both give answers to this, but you can go first, Christian. What meal would you cook for 100 hungry Einherjar? And will you be coming to the Feast of the Einherjar in Oklahoma later this year? I appreciate how you slid that in there, Shay.
Man, that's a tough one. If I had access to outdoor cooking, I would definitely, roast a whole hog or something. If I could get an elk, that would be ideal. I've done that before to feed people, but then again, that's a huge undertaking. Maybe some kind of herbed and roasted meat, I think, would be really good.
Just looking at the side chat, somebody's talking about venison biscuits and gravy as a Southern classic. I've never heard that before, but it sounds amazing. I am certainly down to try some. You had me at biscuits and gravy. You put pretty much any animal on there with biscuits and gravy, and I'm game for it. If it's dog or cat or rat or something, don't tell me, but I'll still eat it. So If I were feeding a bunch of hungry Einherjar, I would feed them tropical schnitzel because it's delicious and I'm excited about it and enthusiastic. And I think they could mow down some. And I am planning on coming to Feast of the Einherjar in November in Oklahoma. And everyone listening to this broadcast should as well. It's a great event. If it's anything like last year, it's at a really cool campground. And, our Oklahoma, our Texas, and our Missouri folk really do a good job of hosting that and putting that on. So Brandy is willing to donate $50 to Balderhof if and only if Stian tells us if Balderhof is the best Hof, and if anyone else says that.
I would say that Baldur's Hof is the best Hof. I'm sure people would fight me on that, but we've got this Hof. It's in Murdoch, Minnesota. It's the best. I'm not saying it's the best. Some people would say that, but $50.
All right. We will take it for the good of Baldershof. I am sure there are 3 other groups of people that might disagree with you on that. But if anyone in the audience or anyone hearing this at any point in time, if you haven't been to Baldershof, you should do yourself a favor and go there. It is a really, really special place. Our folk up there and, Brandy, who asked the question, she personally and everyone up there has put so much love into that place, so much devotion into making that truly a temple to Balder. And it's beautiful. And the love they have for that place and for Balder resounds from the walls of that place. It's amazing. And one of the coolest things, if you can be up there at an event that goes into the evening after the sun goes down, you can walk out those front doors, down those steps, and out by the street and look at it. Baldershof has really pretty multicolored stained glass. And seeing in the dark, seeing the light shine through the doorway and out through that stained glass at Baldershof is just such a beautiful sight. So, yeah, you guys should all go to that and check it out. Matt or Stian, have you guys heard of the book The Children of Odin? Padriak Column. By Padriak Column, I assume. And if you know anything about it, what do you think of it? What are your thoughts, Christian?
Yes, I actually reread it twice while falling asleep at night, just because the audiobook is really calmly narrated and like just nice to listen to. It kind of follows the measure and like tempo of the Eddas, like the poetic Eddas. So yeah, I would 100% recommend it. It's really easy to dig into, and it's concise.
So I tell you what, dirty secret, I have never read it. It is something that I frequently hear very good things about, though. Next question from Katie. Stian, what's your favorite meal to make for the folk and why? And you don't get to use the one you used earlier.
Well, one of the favorite meals that I got to make was for Yule this last year, and folk builder Mike Joyner came up from Nordhoff and helped me cook it in the kitchen. It turned out wonderful. It's Beurre Bourguignon, which is essentially just very rich beef stew served over like French mashed potatoes.
What makes the mashed potatoes French?
The amount of butter. It's astounding.
Are French mashed potatoes more buttery than Southern mashed potatoes?
I would see. I'm from the north, so I have no idea. But it's a lot.
Copy that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want some potatoes with your butter, eat mashed potatoes in France. All right. Okay, so I assume this is some kind of an inside question, but from Nick. So, skiing to work, yeah? Is that because a Mustang probably ain't the wisest decision somewhere where it's winter 10 months out of the year?
Yeah, there were a couple times where I did ski to work just because my car was snowed in. So, yeah, I mean, it's good exercise, if you enjoy that sort of thing. I only live about 10 blocks from work, and cross country skis are, you can kind of slip slide along pretty easy. But when it's the summer, I really enjoy that car. So
That's the thing, Nick. I think you would like cross country skiing. Cross country skiing's kind of cool. I like downhill's more fun, but as far as being able to just kind of glide along, it's been a long time. But I used to do that with my dad growing up in Alaska.
mm-hmm.
All right. So Tyler asks, Stan, something I see brought up occasionally is what, if any, ritual do you do after harvesting an animal? As an avid hunter, is there anything special you do after the kill?
I'll generally, thank the animal for its life, and utilize as much as I possibly can of it. And I completely mean that. Just like as a thank you to that animal that gave its life to feed myself and my family.
Excellent. It's been too long since I've gone hunting. Been too long. Talking about all this and talking about eating game has really got me missing that. King of Cheese asks, so Stian, which do you prefer, hand forging or stock removal?
It depends on what I want to do. If I'm making a knife, hand forging is really fun. It's a lot of hard work. If the intended use for the knife kind of, if it seems like it go one way, I'll do hand forging, or you're gonna have to remove some stock anyway from your forged piece. So it's situational.
So guys, we're having a technical difficulty with entropy, so I am reloading that right now. Bear with me if you will, and we'll have that back up and set up for you guys. So that was my last question I had in my deal before I realized that entropy was down. But one question I saw on the side that didn't get loaded by our producer or whatever before entropy got knocked down is what I'm trying to think of how it was phrased, and I apologize if you get it wrong, but basically, what's the AFA's stance, or what's my opinion, something along those lines about the Norena Society. And this is something we continue to get. I don't like to come on here and speak badly about people or about groups of people unless asked, but when asked, I do feel that it's my job to give an honest opinion on things. Also in the question, it says the Norena Society seems to be something to the effect of all about scholarship and not about community, whereas the AFA is a good mix of both. And again, if I'm off on that, I apologize. So I always have to throw this out there. The founder and a big part of the Norena Society is a gentleman named Mark Puryear. Mark is a great guy. If he was here right now, we would have a beer, I would give him a hug, and we would be great friends. I like Mark a lot. I do not like the Norena Society. A lot of different reasons. So this is a serious religion, and this means the world to me. This is what I've devoted my life to. Religion isn't just studying about something. It's active worship of our gods. I don't feel that the Norena Society is built around piety. I think it's just built around scholarships. It's around scholarship of ancient works. And I also think that it fetishizes obscure theories because it's cool to be the first person to have a really strange out there idea. And so I think that they often make the exception the rule. I think it's really confusing. No amount of studying about something makes you a participant. I think at best, it makes you an expert on. At worst, it makes you a stalker. Somewhere in the middle, it makes you a fan of. But actually engaging in the gift cycle with our gods and being in a worshipful relationship with our gods and our ancestors, that's what makes you a practitioner of our faith. And it's a really important distinction. The other thing, and I don't know if this is going to make sense or not, I think me and Svan have covered it differently in different versions of this or episodes of this. But so let's take science, for instance. Science is an attempt to explain reality. Science is beholden to reality. Reality is not beholden to science. So whatever the current scientific climate says is real doesn't have an effect on what's actually real or not. It's just our best attempt at this time to explain or conceptualize what's real. In the Norena Society, I think it works the other way around. To us in the AFA, it's about our gods and building a relationship with them. If scholarship helps us to better understand them, fantastic. But our gods are what's important. Piety to them is what's important. And that affects how we interpret the data when we read lore or when we look at archaeology. We start from a position of these gods are our gods. We love them and worship them. Now let's try to better understand them through the stories of our ancestors. In the Norena Society, it appears very much, this is our scholarship, so let's make the gods fit in the boxes that we've made for them. Over time, that difference makes all of the difference in the world. So no, the Asatru Folk Assembly is in opposition to the Norena Society and thinks it's harmful to Asatru. Carl asks, music. What is Stian's musical vibe?
Well, honestly, a little bit of everything, but primarily very esoteric black metal. That's something I used to do very like that's one of my main hobbies is drumming, and then also collecting records that are kind of rare and obscure that really I think I'm about the only one in the state that likes them. So a lot of that, I used to play in a country band too, so I got really into country and some southern rock that I really enjoy. I really, really enjoy folk music as well. I'm talking like American folk music. That's pretty much it. And some silly Japanese anime intro remixes.
So I'm reading over in the side comments. And again, if I'm a little bit out of the loop, please forgive me. Entropy dropped out on me, so I'm picking up here. And Cow Guy, I'm not sure if you are the one who asked the question about the Narayana Society, but he says, I've studied Abrahamic text and read the entire Bible and am a pious pagan. It is interesting to study without being of that religion. I don't know if it connects or not, but I think this goes to a follow-up on the Narayana thing. If you were to want to, and you say you're a pious pagan, so that's fine, but for someone who wanted to study Christianity, just reading a scholar's treatise on the historicity of biblical texts, that teaches you something, but it's not learning what the essence of Christianity is. To do that, you would study that practice and how Christianity is practiced and what Christians say about Christianity in their relationship to Christ. And so if somebody wanted to learn about Asatru, I think the Narayana Society is dangerous because it speaks from a position of authority, but it's 20 people who there's not evidence that they actually practice our faith. And it's their scholastic theories, not devotional work, if that clarifies. So we have a next question here. Question for you both. What are some big struggles that you faced in your faith, and how have you dealt with it? Christian, what are some big struggles that you've faced in Asatru, and how have you dealt with it?
Well, on one hand, just a little bit of, doubt, self-doubt, when things weren't going well, I wasn't quite sure I was doing the right things or practicing in the right way. And second, criticism from, people that don't like us and like to say nasty things about us. So other than that, it's, been amazing, and it's really changed my life. So, I'm very thankful for it.
I'm trying to think because I owe you guys a good answer on this, but I haven't faced a lot of struggles in Asatru, at least as far as I haven't encountered a lot of negativity or rejection from people. I haven't, or at least not that has affected me or been a big deal. I haven't had any issues with my faith in the gods or my faith in Asatru. I think that my struggles within Asatru have been personal with people and with situations, and I'm in a fairly unique spot with that. in leadership for a very long time, and as the Alsherjergothi for coming up on 7 years here this summer. Time goes by really fast. For a long time, when I was a member of the AFA leadership team, but I was, ways down on the totem pole, I had a lot of things that I really wanted to do that were burning inside of me with my faith that I wanted to see accomplished. And I wasn't in a position at that time to accomplish those or to move forward as much as I wanted. And that was difficult. And there's a lot of, man, if I was calling the shots, I'd do this different and that different and this other thing different. But I was in a position where it wasn't up to me to make those choices. And that was hard. And I had to sit back and hope that those who were in charge were making those choices or would listen to me when I would advise them. And I guarantee there are people listening to this right now that feel the exact same way about me. And I understand that. I think that comes from a place of deep devotion and wanting so bad to do things right and being enthusiastic. And so I don't fault anybody for that. And I also know that once I sat in the big chair, a lot of the ideas that I had before, when I didn't face those same pressures and those same things, and when that much of the map was not revealed to me, became obvious why things weren't done necessarily the way I wanted to sometimes. One of the other things within Asatru that's been very hard for me, and again, I may be in a really unique position on this, is dealing. There's no way that you can do my job right without being deeply connected and deeply, deeply personally devoted to what you're doing. There's not professional distance. This is about friendships and it's about family. And so you make relationships with people and you build things with people and you feel like they're your friends and they're your family. And all too often, and I think this is a symptom of the soul sickness of our folk and the world that we live in, a very small difference, and all of a sudden your best friends become your worst enemies. And that's been really hard. And I've mentioned this on previous shows. It's very, every time we lose a member, it personally affects me. Every time we lose a member that was someone that I worked with and that I felt like was a friend of mine, it affects me even more. And watching the effect it has on my wife has been hard for me. Dealing with those things, I just, the first way when I wanted to get things done and they weren't done just the way I wanted them, I didn't pick up and leave. I stuck around, and in the capacity that I had, I tried to make things the best I could make them, work my way up the chain, and continue to do the very best I could and to trust those above me were doing their best. And that helped me on that. As far as dealing with the relationships and the friendships that have fractured over seemingly trivial things, still working on that one. I think remaining so this is kind of a Baldershof episode. So, heeding the motto of Baldershof, being guided by true north, keeping my focus on our gods and the things that really matter and just pushing forward. And that has helped me deal with it. And the other thing that helps me deal with any kind of angst or disappointment or frustration is throwing myself, redoubling my efforts on making stuff happen and doing things for the advancement of Asatru. It gives me something to focus on that's positive, and it helps me comfort myself with tangible results of success and of doing. And so I think that's how I cope with those things. Anna asks, are you a lefse maker, Stian?
I am not. My family, however, would always make lefse around Yule, and it was one of my favorites growing up here in the Northland. But I have never made it myself, although I do enjoy it.
All right. So, question, what is your vision about Sigrheim and self-sufficiency, mainly about trade between similar communities? I think that's directed at me. So I think that, just to put it out there, I have no illusions about any degree of self-sufficiency. None of Sigrheim is geared towards self-sufficiency as far as food, as far as production. What it is geared towards in terms of self-sufficiency is having a community that's able to care for the needs of members of that community. I don't think we're going to grow our own food. I don't think we're going to produce our own textiles, do any of those things. But what I do think is out there, when one of our members falls on some hard times, they're going to be surrounded by family that love them, that will feed them and take care of them and help them make it through. So, living paycheck to paycheck or finding themselves in hard financial times will not be an existential crisis to any individual or any family, because there we'll look after each other and we'll have each other's backs and take care of each other. That's the dream. And I think that is the more realistic to me, or more accessible to me, version of self-sufficiency. That is the dream of Sigrheim. Quite frankly, 70 acres sounds like a whole lot. It's not, especially not when so much of that is taken up by hills. There's only so much that can be done, but I want to make sure that we take care of each other as best we can. And if situations get worse in the future, we'll adjust accordingly as those things come up. As far as trading between similar communities, again, I don't think that's necessarily a thing. If there is communities that share our values, that do stuff that we need, then purchasing from them might be a very realistic thing we'd look towards doing. Finding ways to support their endeavors, and all things being equal, to purchase products or services from those communities would be a really good thing that I think we would like to do. I hope that answers your question. Sarah asks, Stian, is Margaritaville now open for the season?
Margaritaville is not yet open for the season. I have a lot of work to do on the house this spring, but hopefully sometime this summer, when the weather's real nice, we'll get everything set back up. So, yeah.
So give us more. For everybody who's not in on the inside joke there, break that down for us.
It's kind of an inside joke between myself and my fiance that we are rabid Jimmy Buffett fans because we find it quite funny. Now, I'm not saying that I do not dislike Jimmy Buffett. I very much enjoy Jimmy Buffett, but
oh, you double down on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I suppose we'll leave you on for the rest of the show. Katie asks, when can we expect you down in the deep south? It's a fine question. Christian, when are you going south?
Hopefully soon. Yeah, it'd be great to see you guys again.
Yeah, you were supposed to go down to Njordshof for Charming of the Plow, and unfortunately the weather was not cooperative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was really disappointed to not make it. protocol for my airport is you have to arrive there hours before because they have to de-ice the plane and take off. So I did not take that into account, and yeah, couldn't make it. Really disappointed.
Well, so may not be the deepest part of the South, but it's certainly the South. Are you planning to make it to Sigrheim at Sigrheim this year?
I'm gonna try. That would be really awesome to come down and see the property.
Yeah, we would love to have you down there. I'm so excited about it. I would love to get you out there and show it off to you and everybody else for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be July 22nd. Scowl and Hale. Who is Stian? What role does he play in the AFA? So I think you're the best one to answer that question, Christian. Who are you, and what role do you play in the Asatru Folk Assembly?
Well, my full legal name is Christian A. Penner. I usually just go by Stian because for obvious reasons, I don't really care for the name Christian. But anyway, my role in the AFA is an apprentice folk builder at Baldershoff District. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Help out with whatever I can. We're gonna have a work day coming up this weekend, so if you want to attend to that, help us out with some projects, get in touch with our folk builders.
So that's a weak sauce, humble answer.
I want to brag.
Well, I'm saying, so Christian is a lot more than that. He's a folk builder for the district. So his AFA responsibilities, he's a folk builder for the district. But what else he does is he helps a lot with AFA art stuff. And he's got a lot of art talents. The horn carving stuff is a very obvious one. And he carves a lot of horns that have raised a lot of money at our Hof auctions. He made this Adumla horn for Fall Fest last year that was really impressive, and it was so neat. And one of the things that he does that's really cool is he fills a lot of the negative space with stippling and detail. So there's so much texture to the horns. They're really amazing. But no, I'm bothering him all the time about little art and construction projects, some of which he knows how to do, some of which he doesn't. I'm still going to bother you about that flag thing because I think you know more about that than you let on. But no, so the other thing is, and I look forward to getting to know him a little bit more. I met him for the first time last year, and I've enjoyed talking to him. But one of the things is everybody in and around Baldershoff just loves the hell out of him. And everybody talks about his sense of humor, how dedicated to this stuff he is. And, he has made a profound impression on all the people that have gotten to know him there. And that's something that we hear time and again. Our chat is filled with Christian fans over there, not the Jewish zombie, but fans of Christian, our folk builder. And yeah, so, and he's a hunter. He's an amazing chef. His house is full of taxidermy. I don't know how much of that he is responsible for or not. I assume quite a bit of it. But yeah, real solid guy, and a guy that we're very glad we have, and a guy that a lot of us have our eye on for becoming a Gothi in the future. I don't know if that's something he wants, but that's something a lot of us want, myself included.
Well, thank you, sir. That's very kind. And to the taxidermy question, it's a bit of a hobby. So, yeah, a lot of the, carving materials and stuff that I get come from the same kind of sources that I can get taxidermy from. So if I find a good deal on something, I'll pick it up. If it's something I don't have yet. So, yeah.
So Nathan asks, Stian, are you familiar with one-arm push-ups?
I am indeed familiar with one-armed push-ups, and I don't think that I could even come close to beating him on those. So, remember the first time that I met Nate, I was impressed with how good of shape he's in. I was like, this guy's jacked.
So that's a pretty high bar. So those of you following this, another one of our folk builders, and a guy that is soon to become one of our Gothar, is Nathan Erlinson. And first, the guy's in ridiculous shape. I think he's probably in the best shape of anybody in the Asatru Folk Assembly. No homo, but good-looking dude in real good shape. And he is a fan of challenging folks to one-arm push-ups. I have never seen someone capable of doing more one-arm push-ups. I've gone out there and tried. I can hold my own. I'll do all right, but it's not at his level. So I think that's a pretty high bar. And then there's some members of AFA leadership, and they know who they are, who cannot do a one-arm push-up, and that really needs to be remedied. Putting it out there. So Brandy says, Stian, you often hail leadership of the AFA ensemble. Can you share with us who have been your biggest influences?
Firstly, one of my closest friends and one of the first people that I really hung out with, like when I first decided to start being active and, really join in, is one of our folk builders, Cormac Jamie Allen. He's a spectacular guy, and he's such a, solid example of what it means to be, leadership. Secondly, the person who asked the question, I'm maybe biased because they're both in my kindred, but yes, and also Nathan Erlinson, Jason Gallagher, definitely. And yourself, sir.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. You know what else? Jason Gallagher is one of the most inspirational people we have. Jason is awesome. If any of you out there get a chance to meet him, do yourself a favor and just soak that time up. He is such a great guy. He's so hospitable. He's hilarious. Really good friend of mine. Jason Gallagher is an amazing, amazing man. If you get a chance to meet him, you will be better for it. Also from Brandy, Stian, how long have you been playing drums? And how did you get so damn good?
I've been playing drums since 9th grade in high school, so about 15 years. Sometimes more consistently than others, especially like being in a band, playing a lot of live stuff. Just that rehearsal time, like as with any instrument, like if you put 10,000 hours into anything, you'll be an expert at it. So, it's a huge time commitment, but very rewarding when you can see yourself improve and be able to do stuff you weren't able to do before, especially with the kind of music that I play. It's very technical, very difficult drumming. That and also lessons. Lessons are key. Having to go back and unlearn bad habits that you develop with, like a proper instructor really helps. So I guess that's how. But I will take this time to plug the fact that Baldersoft now has its very own drum set. So what I'd like to do at Fall Fest, Freyfaxy, for Baldur's Ball, is maybe try and put together some kind of live music. If, folks want to bring their guitars or instruments, try and keep it acoustic and, just kind of get a little bit of the jam going so folks can dance around and enjoy themselves. So reach out to me if you are interested in that. So I think that'd be real fun.
All right. So at Fall Fest, at Freyfaxy this year, you are my guy when I need a drummer to help me. Our law speaker, Alan Turnage, has informed me that I drum like a white man. And I think that is a fair assessment of our race, perhaps. I lack my trouble is doing two things at once. A lot of the time I like to, first, incorporating a drum into ritual, I think is really, for a lot of reasons. So I'll be serious for a second. Incorporating a drum into ritual is really powerful in that if you keep that beat going, it's a big tool to help focus people on the ritual, especially if you have a large group of people. One of the things, when people are very used to, and this is a lot of our comfort zone where a lot of us came from. I myself am used to doing rituals with, 10 people. A 10-man ritual and a 100-man ritual, one of the biggest differences is the way we do ritual. It takes so much longer to go around for that many people. And maintaining focus is very hard. And it's not a reflection on the piety of the people there, but the human mind just is what it is. We, man, my leg hurts. Man, I'm tired. My back hurts. I hope he hurries up. What do I got? All right, man, I got to go home tonight, and then I got to pick up, this and that at the store, or what? I hear kids in the background. What are they doing? Is my kid getting in trouble? All of these things go on in our brain. When you can focus your senses on what's going on, and at quiet times and lower energy or lower frequency points in the ritual, having a drum beat there to focus on, it does wonders. But my thing is, I have trouble keeping a good beat. I have trouble keeping a good beat in general, and then I have trouble drumming, keeping the beat while I'm performing the ritual. So I always need help of some good drummers. The reason I took to doing it myself is, unfortunately, I get guys that say they can drum and keep up with it, but out of not wanting to disrespect me or not wanting to mess me up, they keep the drumming, almost silent. And I need a pretty vigorous drumming. I can raise my energy to where the drum's at, but it's hard if the drumming is too low. It's probably more than you guys really wanted to know about my ritual drumming situation, but no joke, I'm probably going to bother Christian come Freyfaxy on that. So our next question, don't be a stalker of our gods, be a gift giver and receiver. Am I understanding that right? 100%. You are understanding that perfectly. Scholarship should all be done in an effort to better build a real relationship. Okay, I say this. By an Asatru, scholarship should be done with the whole purpose of to strengthen and build a better relationship with our gods and to better understand them. Somebody who really is just a fan or a scholar of Asatru, by all means, their motivation are very different. But if you are Asatru, you're defining yourself by your loyalty to the Aesir. That means you having a living, actual relationship with our gods, and your deeds and your life working towards their goals and their benefit. It means being, united with them in purpose. So by all means, don't be creepy and sneak around the edges and, dig through their trash. And I say that I love our lore and I love archaeology and I love history, and I think we all do. And, I've read the same sources that so many of you have. And if there's new ones or ones I haven't read, I try hard to bone up on that. All of that is very important. But all of it is masturbatory if it doesn't end up with you building a relationship and actually worshiping our gods and being part of that gift cycle. So yeah, study up, but reach out and meet them, extend your hand to them, extend offerings and prayers, build a relationship with our gods, strengthen that through research and through knowledge, but build that relationship because that means everything. We would still be Asatru if all of a sudden we didn't have any of that lore. If we started fresh tomorrow with no lore and just us and reaching out to the divine, we would build relationships with our gods and we would carry on our faith. We would develop, differently than we are able to with the knowledge that we have. But our relationship with the gods transcends book learning. It's so much more than that.
I would just like to add that Asatru really becomes real to you when you get out and you really, with full, intention, really practice it in real life. Otherwise, like some people, it just, it doesn't really mean anything to you without actually doing it. Like I remember when I went to last year's Free Faxi, I was driving in from another town, and after the welcome of the gods that we do at Baldershoff, there was 3 rainbows, and I was like, oh wow, like that's very significant. Like when you start, meeting new people, making those connections, and putting yourself out there. So it really becomes real then.
So the next question. Have any of you guys read Varg and his wife's book series on paganism explained? This would also include as one book reflections on European mythology and polytheism. What do you think of them? Christian, have you read any of those works?
I have read some of them. Paganism Explained one is okay. He kind of has some wonky ideas in there, and I think that he is more of like an atheist than anything. He wants to believe in the gods as concepts and, constructs when they're not. And see, it like, I don't think that he really believes in it. He has some wonky ideas, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm going to be completely honest. I have not read those books. I am familiar with, I have heard, it has been shared to me much of things that Varg has said over the years and things that they have written about. But again, I'm not getting them in first person, so I apologize if I get any of it wrong or if any of it is, misrepresentative in any way. My understanding is that too. It sounds very much like they are pagan in the sense that they are anti-Christianity, not in the sense that they have a genuine belief and relationship with our gods. It very much seems like they like a folklore version of atheism. And that's not what we do. And I don't think that's fair to project modern atheism upon our ancestors by trying to denigrate their faith because you don't have faith of your own. And I don't think it's necessarily evil intentioned, but don't stand on the backs of very devout people and devalue their faith in an effort to explain or project your own atheism. And I think that's what he does a lot of the time. I think that he likes attention. He likes focusing everything about him and his ideas. And he does it at the expense of the faith of generations of our ancestors that had a very good relationship with our gods. From Katie, what is the daily practice that you would like to share? Christian, what daily practice do you do for Asatru that you would like to share with folks?
My kind of daily thing, just me, I will, before I leave for work, most days, I will go and, give my altar something and ask for success and protection and, to see me about my day. So I can have, be victorious in my pursuits, with my job. I have a pretty stressful job. So, it helps me to start my day like that. Usually when I see the sun, especially in the winter, I'll greet the sun. And, in the evening, my fiance and I will, do something together. It's just us, and say our thanks. Do a little float. Right at usually 9 p.m. And just like little daily things remind you about the importance of ritual and your faith, and keeps you pious and devoted, I think.
Also, what are you sipping on? Do you have a drink there with you, Christian?
Yes, I do. This is a Summit Brewing Company from Minnesota. I can't see that. Yeah. Saga, after the goddess, IPA. It's very hoppy and delicious.
So I am also drinking an IPA. I am drinking an Atomic Torpedo Imperial IPA from Sierra Nevada. I'm actually drinking my second of these, and I think it's pretty good. I'm growing to like the hop juice. I wish craft brewers made stuff that wasn't IPAs. Perhaps one day. Excellent. Thank you very much, Sterling, for asking a question about the hero who is the focus initially of today's broadcast. As a hero to our folk, which of the 10 noble virtues does John Gibbs-Bailey best represent? What say you, Christian?
If I had to give a bad answer, it'd be all of them. But what I had written down was definitely courage, industriousness, and perseverance. Just for him to kind of be brave in like an environment that was extremely, extremely Christian in the time he was alive, and do the work of, I guess you could call it folk building, bring folks together, and just perseverance for doing it for what seemed like, most or whole of his life. That's very inspiring to me.
Absolutely. Fidelity and perseverance, staying loyal to our gods and our folk And doing it for so long without without all this that we have today. One of the things that stands out to me, and one of the only sources of information that we have about John Gibbs-Bailey is an article written by the Odinic Rite, or for the Odinic Rite, a number of years ago. But it talked about how, and this is funny to me because I used to do this as well. So he'd ask folks, how many members do you think we have? And he'd be, he'd smile to himself, or he'd be amused because everybody thinks there's more than there are. And I used to do that too. I'd ask, whenever anybody asked me, there was a time I was a lot more protective with our member number, but truth is one of our values. So I've been, I put that out there. As of this second, our member number is 987. And I honesty on that's really important. But I'd ask people, how many do you think? Very commonly, they would think, tens of thousands. And we will get there someday. But I know our reality is much smaller than tens of thousands right now. In his time, I think that the Odinic Rite of that day, and, they've largely disappeared today. But of his day, if it was triple digits, I'd be surprised. And this is something he was asking folks in the 1980s. If it was triple digits, I'd be surprised. He maintained his faith in our gods from the 1930s until the end of his life, which was at least the 1980s, without the Hofs that we have today, without all of this amazing community that we're surrounded by, without all of the luxuries, all of the things that we've built on the backs of men like him to have for us and for our children. He maintained his faith through all of that. And that speaks volumes. We are so fortunate today to have what we have. And it's because men like him were willing to maintain this and keep this flame going, even when they were essentially alone in doing so. And that's what we want to really honor by celebrating him with a day of remembrance. Our next question: did the AFA have the need to place a need stand sometime in its history? I am unaware of the AFA actually constructing a knithing pole at any point in time. For those of you who may not be familiar, knithing pole is something that in ancient Asatru times, they would construct often with the carcass of a horse, certainly the skull of a horse, and they would aim it at a person that was dishonorable and somebody they wished to curse. And this would be an ever-present talisman to focus ill fortune or shame upon a person that was shameful. And I don't believe, I'm unaware of a time that an actual knithing pole was raised by the Asatru Folk Assembly. There have been times to where curses have been cast by members of AFA leadership towards people that have done wrong by them in the past. I am aware that that has occurred. So there have been magical or esoteric efforts towards people who are shameful. I think it's important to me to be open on here, but a lot of stories aren't necessarily mine to tell. And I think when it comes to magical practices, going too deep into, esoterics that other people have engaged in wouldn't be appropriate for me to do. But yeah, that kind, magical sending of negative things towards shameful people has occurred in the past. Question. Stan and Matt, how important is exercise for physical and mental health? And can you inspire me to go to the gym this evening? I'm tired. Christian, go ahead and start.
Well, firstly, I don't know if you can hear it, but I apologize for my puppy who's currently found a squeeze ball. Getting it in when you need it, especially if you're feeling a little down, getting that blood flowing really helps. So yeah, I'd encourage you to get to the gym. It's definitely important. I used to be much heavier and put a lot of work into my diet and exercise, and I'm very pleased where I'm at, now. So yeah, it's definitely important.
Yeah, exercise is super important to physical and mental health. It is, in a way, your diet and exercise is perhaps the most accessible way that you have to better yourself in an immediate way. If I'm feeling like a fat slug that needs to make something better, I can get in my car, assuming it's open, and my gym has relatively short hours. But I can get in the car, I can go to the gym, I can go in there, I can put in the effort, and I can feel like I've accomplished something. And that's a very immediate thing that we can all do to make some things better in our lives. It's essential. It's huge for me. I work out every single day, and I don't necessarily advise that everyone has to work out every single day for their own. People get on here, and one of the things about working out with diet and exercise, almost every theory of exercise, almost every diet is good. If you're taking somebody who's out of shape and they do any of those things, if they stick with them, they all are good. Now, almost all. Some people have some really ridiculous ideas, but generally, they're all good. And there's going to be people that say, taking days off for recovery is really important. I believe life throws you those days enough, and you'll get enough of those. But even if it doesn't help physically, it helps me mentally to go to the gym, to be around other people who are excelling and doing great things, and to be around those people daily is really important to me. So yeah, I think that's essential, and it makes you better. It makes you look better. But we talked about the soul complex last week, Svan and myself. It makes you hold yourself better. If you feel proud of yourself for accomplishing and for going to the gym, you stand taller, you hold your head higher, you stick your chest out, you feel good about who you are and how you look. And that projects to the world. It's extremely important. I don't care if you're tired, get up and go to the gym. Once you start going, you're going to be a lot less tired, and you're going to be glad that you did. I've never pushed myself to go to the gym and then regretted it. I have often regretted times that I, wimped out on going to the gym when I should have, if that makes any difference. Are there any AFA members in Latin America? Not nearly as much as I'd like. I want there to be AFA members everywhere that we have our folk, that Aryan people exist. We do have one member right now in South America. I would love for that to get bigger and better, but currently we only have that one South American member. And then I assume this is a follow-up question. Communes, as if, are there communities in South America? As I said, we only have that one member, but we would love to see communities and kindreds, is what we'd call them in the AFA, develop in South America. So Chelsea fan rather asks, are there AFA members in France? There are. So I'm pulling up my membership map right now because it's cool and I like to do it. We have 2 French members currently, including, actually we have 3 French members, including our folk builder in France. Stéphane Pompignac is in, I believe, the Normandy area of France. So we are absolutely trying to build our French membership. We have a lot of European members, and we would love more French members. If you are interested, if you are in France, if you know Frenchmen or French women that ought to be involved in the Asatru Folk Assembly, please direct them to spompignac@runestone.org. And our producer, Nick Rice, is already on it, and he threw it up on the screen. I appreciate that. That's excellent. King of Cheese. So, Stian, how did you find your way to the worship of the gods? And when was that? How long have you been an Asatruar?
Well, kind of funny. When I started to, look at more music and art that, has a Germanic focus with a lot of, some of the design elements that I really appreciate. I was like, okay, so like, why, so for instance, why did the Vikings dress a certain way? Why, the things that they left on runestones, what was the significance behind that? Because, like, I thought that was really cool, especially with, the carving. So, yeah, going through and reading all of that, like, all the lore and, finding out about how to practice spiritually was really kind of an awakening. So I want to say 2020, I think I really, buckled down and said, you know what, let's actually really give this a try and see if it works. And it did immediately, immediately felt that real spiritual connection, and I feel very blessed. So, yeah.
All right. Carl asks, what tools are needed this weekend at Baldershof?
Well, if you don't have anything, I mean, just bring yourself. We can always find a way to put you to work. There's plenty to do. I know we are going to have some cleaning. There is, usually always cleaning. I have a few projects that I'm working on, but I think I have all the tools I need. If you just have, basic toolkit, drill, screwdrivers, hammers, nails, maybe. I'm not quite all sure what left there is to do, but yeah, you could either reach out to me or Mr. Nathan Erlinson, who he would actually probably have a better idea. And we look forward to meeting you this weekend.
So it looks like it worked. We got a gentleman that was wavering to decide he is going to the gym today. If you do, put in your earpieces and continue listening to Victory Never Sleeps, and it will Add weight to your maxes. All right. Shay asks, what is the best breed of dog based on your biases? Christian, you first.
Well, Keely probably would not agree with me, but I do enjoy Newfoundland as large and smelly and stinky and slobbery as they are. They're very nice dogs, very kid friendly. We recently got a German Shepherd puppy who is very energetic, but also very smart and very protective.
So they seem awesome. I wish they weren't slobbery. Not a slobber fan. I am a so more than people really wanted to know, but I'm a sympathetic vomiter. One of the things, so if I see a bunch of slobber, I may have an unfortunate reaction to it. Not a big fan of the slobber. Bar story. So some of you may be aware, I used to, for about 10 years, I was a bouncer at different bars. And when I started out, they'd try to sick me on the, hey, deal with the vomit. And, you know, because that was a fun thing to sick the new guys on. But they found out very quickly it was a poor choice because I would add to the problem instead of fixing it. So, yeah, Newfoundlands, if we could control the drool, I think them and St. Bernards are awesome. Honestly, these are useless dogs, but they are the coolest dogs ever. I love them, and I wish I had one. English Bulldogs. I had one. His name was Piper. He was a great dog. He ended up dying prematurely of some neurological problems. But he was a great dog. One of the coolest things about Bulldogs is their ridiculous, freakish skulls. I used to like to snuggle him in his eye pit. There's kind of between the Bulldog's eye ridge, there's this like little pit. You could scratch in there, and he used to like that. But I miss my Piper dog. Yeah, English Bulldogs are my favorite breed. Always have been since I was a little kid. Where are we at? Here we go. Stan, I believe your girlfriend became a member after you stepped up. How did that go? And why is it important to be open with friends and family and bring them home?
Well, when we met, I had just become a member, and that spring we met that summer. So I was like, hey, I'm, with these people, can we believe? She's like, yeah, okay, like that's cool. It never really mattered to her. But as she kind of saw me practicing, she kind of followed, and now it's something that we really enjoy together. It's just, kind of our little check-in for the day, to just got something to really connect over, and it means very much to me. Being open with friends can be difficult sometimes because not every friend is going to really understand, so, I mean, relationships with people come and go, but, being, courageous and speaking truth, like, it's very important to just really be open and honest and be yourself.
All right, so this is an important question, and I'm going to answer, or I'm going to add my 2 cents in on this. But I did see a clarification. The commune's comment that I mentioned earlier was a question about Sigrheim. And I appreciate you. Anytime we answer a question, if we get it wrong or we're not understanding what you're asking, please do throw it in the side chat because it's important and I want to get it right. So Sigrheim is, I don't like saying commune because communism is bad. it is absolutely an intentional community where we have a piece of land the AFA owns, or is in the process of owning, rather, and we're building a neighborhood on that land with a great hall eventually and Tiershof eventually. And we want to have other housing there for folks on hard times, for people who are crippled, for elders. We want to take care of our folk, and we also want to have a neighborhood on that property that shares. It's not a commune in the sense that the community doesn't own everything or own all of people's possessions, but we are committed to sharing with one another and helping each other to succeed. And that's the beautiful thing about it, that I'm very excited to move myself and my family there here in the coming, I say years, but I really hope it's quicker than that. But yeah, that's the idea of it. So on the topic of having your family, your friends, certainly your significant other involved with your Asatru practice. Early on in my experience with Asatru, I'd say in the early 2000s, it was commonplace for guys to be Asatru, their girlfriends or wives to be something completely different. Maybe they were Wiccans at best. Very often they were still Christians. And they kind of let their wife raise their kids and threw up their hands and, we'll let them make a choice when they're adults. And I'm very glad that has changed. This is important. Your faith should be the bedrock of who you are and of your relationships. If you have friends and family and you can't honestly express who you are, it puts a very unfortunate restraint on your ability to have a meaningful relationship with them. If you're putting on a face, are they really friends or are they just acquaintances? So some of you may know, my mother passed away last month, and she was very polite, and with her friends, she didn't really talk politics. She didn't really talk religion. She didn't talk a lot of those deeper things. She would kind of smile and nod and tell everybody everything was okay all the time. And I watched growing up and in her later years how it affected her ability to form really deep relationships. If you're not willing to be mentally, religiously, intellectually vulnerable with people and let them know exactly who you are and what you think and what you believe, it's impossible to form the deep bonds that you need to have a successful marriage, a successful friendship, successful familial bonds. And I've watched too many people have to stifle that or shut off a part of themselves in order to go along and get along. And I know that it seems hard, but ripping off that Band-Aid is the best thing you can do. It is really hard tomorrow, but it's better a year from now or for the rest of your life than to be stuck living, a half-hearted existence, not being your full self. Since I've been involved in Asatru, my wife and I have been married now. I got to think. Honestly, she's really cool about this, so she's probably not going to be mad at me. Almost 6 years. I think we're coming up on our 6th anniversary. If I'm wrong, I sincerely apologize. But before I met Mandy, and we've been together for a little bit longer than that. We've been together for about a year and a half longer than that. About a year and a month. Nope, 2 years and a month longer than that. I don't know what I'm talking about. Don't listen to me. So what I was going to say is We've been together since December of 2014. Being with somebody who, and so this is the thing, Mandy is not a plus one. Mandy was Asatru, I'm not going to say before I was, but I think she became an AFA member about the same time I did. Completely separate from me. So she was Asatru on her own when I met her. And I met her at an AFA event. I met her at Winter Nights in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. Building our relationship and our marriage around the AFA and around our faith and our loyalty to our gods. It's amazing, because I've had girlfriends before. I even had my first wife was with me, and she wasn't Asatru. I know what that's like. And my partners have been supportive of me doing what I wanted to do. So I was lucky in that regard. But having my significant other be Asatru, I would never advise anyone out there to do it any other way. It has made all the difference. It has allowed my life to synergize with all the pieces of my life functioning together instead of it being compartmentalized and spread out. So yeah, I would encourage everybody to find a partner within the Asatru Folk Assembly and build your life and your family through our church. It makes all the difference in the world. And I know there's folks that aren't in that situation, and I don't mean any disrespect, but it makes everything work so much better and so much closer to what it was intended to work. Allie asks, Stian, what's your favorite part of Baldershof events? And why is it Baldur's Ball?
Well, it's one of our traditions that we do usually on either Friday or Saturday night, and getting together, with folks and music, and everyone kind of dancing around is really fun, cool thing to see. People just being able to let loose and have some fun together. That's not just discussion or ritual. So yeah, I love it. It's one of my favorite things that we do.
All right, so Stian, our audience has been spoiled with Witten Swan, who's very verbose. You need to tell us more about this Baldur's Ball. What is this? Break it down for us. Those that might not know.
It's what it sounds like. We get a couple drinks, go out on the Hof floor and dance music. So it's a really cool, unique thing that we do. I know Whit and Brandy really likes to dance, so it's always very fun to see.
Brandy is a dancer, and she got to dance with our law speaker. I didn't know Alan could cut a rug, but there you go. That's awesome. No, that's one of the things that we do at a number of our events is kind of have a dance and spend that social time, because it's really important to connect with each other and have that time socially together. And I think that's a really cool thing that folks do. All right. So an hour or so later, Gothi Trent East comes back at me. And I only assume this was a jab at my Trent when I talked about his inability to do one-arm push-ups, which is disgraceful. Gentlemen, please discuss the importance of calf muscles among the ancient Indo-Europeans. So I'm going to preface this by I've got little girly calves. I can move a lot of weight with my calves, but my calves are not impressive. I'd like to think they're more impressive now than they were when I started, but I'm going to keep it real. So, 28 just guessing. My wife and I and a number of members of AFA leadership went to Sweden for an event, for an AFA event we were having in Sweden. And we got to hang out and meet some amazing, amazing people. Our members in Sweden, I love them. I miss them. I want to go back over there and see you guys. A man who was folk building at the time, he's no longer folk building, still a good member for ours. Anders, I miss you, Anders. I don't get to talk to you as much as I used to. You guys are awesome. Their hospitality was amazing. We stayed with them. He drove us around. He showed us all these things. And there was another gentleman, a Norwegian. So we found really amazing tickets from, of all things, Oakland. You'd think San Francisco, but right across the bay at Oakland, they had these amazing tickets nonstop from Oakland to these different destinations in Europe. Way our tickets worked out is we were flying into Oslo. So a member of ours, Hans, picked us up. And it was really cool. That first little bit there, Hans got to show us some really cool things. You know, I'm not going to say I got to see the sights of all of Norway, but that little section between Oslo and then down into Sweden, I got to see really cool things. I got to see stone circles. I got to see some really cool graves. Got to eat some sausages. Got to hang out with Hans and learn some things. Well, so he hung out with us, and our members over there, they stayed with us and like basically camped out with us for, you know, the week we were there. And it was beautiful to get to spend so much time with those guys. I made some really good friendships that I really care a lot about. Anyways, we went and we saw all these stone carvings, and they're you know, Bronze Age and whatever, and they're really cool. A lot of you've seen them, and you'll see these like red stick figures on the stones. Now, originally they weren't red. That red has been put in there to see these faint stone impressions because they've eroded over time. So that red's a modern thing, but really cool. And I'm so thankful to Anders for showing us all this stuff. It's right in Tannenscheide, I think is what you call the area of Sweden that they were in. But man, these rock carvings are amazing. And so here's the thing. They're stick figures, and the only distinguishing things is you see the indication of long hair on women, and on men you see an erect penis. The rest of them are complete stick figures, except they have these bulging calves. It's kind of ridiculous. But that was a standout feature. They thought, you know, you need long hair if it's a lady, you need an erect penis if it's a man, so you can tell gender. And then you need these enormous calves to show these guys are awesome. So Hans went up to this one, and you could get up close to it. And I believe it was thought to be a carving of Odin. And he went up to it, took a picture, pulled up his pant legs, flexed his mighty Aryan calf. And he's got this massive, he doesn't have calves, he has bulls. And he flexed this next to it and talked about his Aryan calves. And then unfortunately, a comment was made to me that I've got old Europe, the old Europe calves of the conquered, whereas he has the mighty Aryan calves. And I've got no defense against that, but I promise to don't skip leg day. I can move a lot of weight on the calf machine, but fair enough. I will take that one. But yeah, this was a really prominent thing. When you saw the conquering forces, they had really big calves, and the people that they conquered in these pictures, and we can only assume that's what they meant, didn't have the same calf indication on their stick figures. So do with that what you will. Cody says, our heroes and their stories can teach us a lesson. What do you think we can take away from Gibbs-Bailey's story? Christian?
Well, I mean, I think that he can serve as a strong example of, even though he seemingly didn't want to be very public, he still put the work in, to build something that he deeply cared about. So, maybe just think on that, some of the virtues that he helped establish and then, lived by. So I think we can take that away from his story.
Yeah, I mean, I'll piggyback on what I said earlier, but it's easier certainly to be Asatru when we have the structure that we have. We have our very active AFA family. You guys may see, those of you watching on Twitter, I post all the stuff on there and all over our social media. Every weekend we have AFA events, probably have 10 AFA events a week at least, all over the place. We've got 4 Hofs. We've got so many beautiful and amazing blessings now. But I can only imagine how hard it was in those lean times when very few people were Asatru. And those who claimed to be were probably often just people who wanted to be eccentric. To maintain that faith through, from the 1930s to the 1980s or perhaps the 1990s, that was quite a feat. That was through a time, especially post the Second World War, where it was very unpopular to have any beliefs that bordered upon Asatru. To be so disconnected from large bodies of our folk, and he had some people that he worked with, certainly, but that was hard to hold that candle during that kind of aloneness. His staying the course and finishing the race that is this life, loyal to our gods, that means everything. And I think that's the lesson that we all need to learn from him. Okay, so next question. The AFA had 1,000, I thought. 13 left then? That sucks. Does suck. One of the things that's been a truth of modern Asatru is we have people that pass through, and getting people to treat this as a real religion and not as a club or a social group has been a big struggle for Asatru for forever, and certainly something that I've tried really hard to fix in my time in the AFA. But yeah, I remember number ebbs and flows. We were up to 1,016 a couple of weeks ago. A lot of this is because we try to be honest. Truth is one of our virtues. So we keep a clean database. And if we have people in there that don't respond for a certain amount of time, and their memberships lapse and they won't answer or get a hold of us, we do make those cuts. And it would be very easy and very tempting to leave people in there indefinitely and have a bigger number to crow about. But we want to be honest, not just with everybody we advertise to or talk to. We want to be honest with ourselves. So yeah, I think we're down 29 people from our height, but we'll get back up there in a short amount of time. The turnover is higher than I'd like, but we have people all of the time that come back that didn't realize they were expired or, for whatever reason. But yeah, good on you for remembering that and checking in on that. But yeah, the member churn is much greater than I wish it was, but it's much better than it's ever been before. So we'll get back there. Next question, Mr. Penner. Good to see you here. What are your 5 favorite books that are not lore related? And what is your favorite saga? Thank you.
All right. 5 favorite books. Number 1 is going to be The Terror by Dan Simmons. Number 2 probably be the Lord of the Rings series, just the trilogy. Let's see. Number 3 would probably be Dune, the Dune series by Frank Herbert. Let's see. The Indifferent Stars Above. I forget who that's by. Let's see. I'm thinking. I got 4. I don't know. Maybe The Hobbit. And then favorite saga would probably be The Völuspá.
Fair enough. No, Völuspá doesn't count as a saga. Give us a favorite saga. No, it's an Eddic poem. There's a difference.
I'm not sure. They kind of all run together for me.
Ouch! Ouch!
The one with Sigurd and Fafnir, I would say, it's probably my favorite. Right?
Okay, fair enough. I'll take that.
Mm-hmm.
Volsung Saga. I like the Nibelungenlied a lot, and I know it's told in kind of a high medieval epic scale, but I really like the way it's presented there more so than I like in the Volsung Saga. So I think anybody who reads one of those definitely needs to read the other. So another question, do children participate in ritual currently at Baldershof? Christian.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. At some of our bigger events, usually when we have a whole gaggle of kids, they'll do their own children's float. And then there's always children's activities throughout the day. So, yeah, it's really great.
So that's important. At all of our AFA events, children are always welcome and encouraged. Now, sometimes they're squirrely and it's up to the parents. And, after that, it's up to those kids, whether they want to be involved in ritual or not. Sometimes the kids are off playing by themselves, doing their own thing. But sometimes, and very often, they're actively involved in the ritual. There's been beautiful toasts and memorable toasts made during Sumble by children. Sumble's tricky because it's late. It tends to be late in the evening at our events. But, some of the most from the heart, just honest and really beautiful toasts that I've heard at Sumble have been from children. We do encourage our kids to participate. It means so. I've got a mixed reputation for this at Odenshof. I terrify the children a lot of the time because I get loud and I get really into it. And also, if I'm asperging the mead, I get a little bit juicy with it at times. And, I might splash some kids in the face or the eyes with the mead. They can consider themselves extra blessed, but, my godson is terrified of me and weeps bitter tears when I host a ritual because he's a little baby and I get really loud, I guess. I'm really proud that my daughter, she's always been cool. And even when I'm in a really intense Odin ritual, she doesn't cry. She's cool. She realizes it's daddy and she's not upset. So that's neat. But we encourage our kids to be as involved with what we do as possible. Always kids at the Hofs, tons of kids. It was joking. It wasn't always the case. It was a really long time that we didn't have all those young families, and it was a lot of single guys. But it's Yeah, me and Cliff were joking about this a while back, but it's very rare to see a picture of an AFA event that there's not children, babes in arms, and pregnant ladies in the same picture. So that's been a really beautiful thing to see. One of the things that has stood out to me that I think is a really special thing that in the time that we live in, my daughter, and my daughter just turned 3. My daughter and children born since her, they're never going to know a world that doesn't have Hoffs to our gods. When I first got involved in this and started this, the idea of a Hoff was this distant dream that maybe one day we could have. Now people treat it like it's just the norm. Like, hey, I thought you guys had Hoffs everywhere. You guys only have 4? And it makes you stop and chuckle for a second, but it's a really cool testament that we've been able to change that perception. It's assumed now, of course we have Hoffs. Why wouldn't we have Hoffs? And my daughter will never know a world that doesn't have Hoffs. And that's the times we're living in. And it's a really beautiful thing. And I'm very blessed to be participating in Asatru in the time that I am. Apologize if this has been asked. How does home ownership work in Sigrheim? It's a fantastic question. I wish that I had an awesome answer for you. So we're still in the early stages. We've got our first pioneer out there, and we have 2 more that are kind of floating around the perimeter there and trying to get services established so they can get out there. We're figuring out all of the particulars on that through our lawyer and our law speaker, Alan Turnage. He's getting that all figured out with a local Tennessee real estate attorney. So we're working on all of that, but certainly, we don't ask that you give up ownership to your home or you give up a bunch of things. That's not it. We want to figure out exactly how it goes. And I don't want to make promises that I can't keep, but the idea is we want to protect your property, your equity. We're not trying to take anything. We just want us all to get there and share and do things. So we'll have more for that a little bit down the road. Hey, everyone, coming in late, so I'll definitely catch the full replay later. But I wanted to say hello. I log in, and the first words Matt says is, communism is bad. Perfect. Perfect place to come in. Communism is bad. So there you have that. From Gothi Daniel Young, Stian, who are your musical influences, and why is it Dave Lombardo?
It is not Dave Lombardo. Well, compared to most of the music that I play, it's my stuff's a little different. It's a lot more blast beats and like extremely complicated fills and stuff. So I do enjoy Dave Lombardo's work, but some of my major influences would be I guess, let's see, Gene Hoglan from Death Clock. I grew up playing a lot of Death Clock when I was in high school. Metalocalypse is one of our favorite shows. But outside of that, just a lot of different artists that I really enjoy. So kind of vague, but I have a very obscure taste in music. I can't name every drummer.
Fair enough. There we go. Mr. Penner, I don't know if it was asked before, but can you share the story of the taxidermy piece cat behind you? Thank you.
Yeah, he actually came out of an oddity shop in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's a really nice guy that owns it, because I collect a lot of oddities as well as, just like taxidermy, and he's really good with stuff like that. And he had this come up for sale, and I jumped on it because I really like cats. So
Well, there you have it. So that is the last question we have in the queue for tonight. Don't know if we have any others. If you guys want to throw out anything, there was a question that was asked in some of our chat groups earlier this week that I did want to respond to on the show today. It was, and I think that it's really relevant to us talking about John Gibbs-Bailey, Hoskuld, and his legacy. And it's something to the effect of, and this was kind of an ongoing kind of argument about why is the AFA so insistent All right, am I back?
on my end, yeah.
Okay, cool. So awesome. Yeah, I wasn't showing up on the video for a second. I apologize. What I was saying was, why is the AFA so insistent that we are the voice of Asatru and everybody else doesn't count? And that's a really rough way of seeing it, or a rough way of putting it. But I mean, it's honest, and I'll stand by it. We talked earlier in the program about we are our deeds. We aren't what we wish we did, what we should have done, what we'd like to do. We are what we actually do. And men like Hoskuld and our heroes tried really hard to build something to move this forward. And right now, we've watched the organizations that so many of these people spent their life contributing to. We've watched them fall by the wayside and dwindle into obscurity and not move forward. We are the current torchbearers of Asatru. We are moving Asatru forward. We are advancing the will of the Aesir and the destiny of our folk, and we're making progress. Every little splinter group, everyone who practices Asatru or anything else they want to apply a strange oddball name to that means Asatru, if they're not here with us moving it forward, then that's all energy that's dissipated in all these different directions. It's not accomplishing anything. And our mission is bigger than that. It's our job together to accomplish and do deeds to move forward. One of the things on that makes a big difference is some folks see religion, or Asatru specifically, as an individual pursuit. And certainly you can spiritually advance as a solo practitioner by yourself in the middle of the woods. And it may make you better. It may help you understand the divine better, but it doesn't move Asatru forward better, and it doesn't make a better future for our folk and our children. You only do that when you contribute to building, and that's what we're doing. All of this we do in the AFA, all that we build is for our future, for our children, for our legacies, for advancing the glory and the will of the Aesir. And we do that by moving forward together. We've been blessed. We've been shown favor from the gods. And if we didn't own that and accept that and move it forward, it'd be disrespectful to the blessings that we've been given. So that's why the AFA takes the stance that we are Asatru and everything else doesn't count. Individually, there's plenty of people that have a good relationship with our gods. I want all of those people to join us and be involved in what we're doing. Yeah. So I hope that clears it up. I know some of the people listening tonight were part of that discussion, and I hope that makes it make a little bit more sense. And I do believe we have a couple more questions that have come up since then. Sierra asks, Matt, will you be at the Lovelock Cave expedition this weekend? Yes, but I need to get in touch with Sheila and let her know exactly, because I want to try to do it as a family with Mandy, myself, and Aubrey. I'm probably not going to do the camping out part. I think that I'll be showing up Saturday morning and leaving, Saturday evening, but I do absolutely want to be part of that. If anybody is curious, in Northern Nevada, we are doing a deal this weekend where we're seeing a number of different sites in Northern Nevada, and we're specifically going to spend some time at Lovelock Cave. It's a cave that there's a lot of local legends, and people found remains of such, that there was these quote unquote red-haired giants that occupied these caves. And they were, different from all of the, Native American tribes people. They were very different in their stature, in their appearance, in their culture, and what they did. And they did battle with the Native Americans. And eventually, I believe the Paiutes, they got these giants trapped in this cave, Lovelock Cave, where they were dwelling, and they tried to smoke them out, and they ended up killing a lot of them in that cave. And they found big skeletons there with Caucasian features. And so it's an interesting place. I've been out there before. I went out there in the height of all the COVID lockdown situation. And Mandy and Aubrey and I went out there and walked around and spent some time in these caves, and really cool. It's a nice, easy hike for, it's not really even a hike. It's a nice, easy walk up to these caves. And it's really special. So we're going to do that here this weekend. If anybody is interested and in the area, please reach out and let us know. But yeah, I'm excited to be part of that and see that this weekend. Nathan asks, Stian, did leaving the military leave a hole in your life? And has the AFA filled that space? If so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that every service member, like whether they serve for a short period of time or for a very long time, like when they leave, the service, you really kind of wind up losing a lot of your friends. It's very hard to stay in touch with those people after you leave, because, they, military puts people everywhere constantly. People are geographically not close, and it's hard to stay in touch, especially like in a personal sense. And you wind up going from having a whole company or platoon of friends to having just going back to the town you grew up, or being friends with the people that you were friends with in high school, and that's really not always the best. Because I left for the Army when I was newly 18, and then was enlisted for 6 years after that. Yeah, that definitely left a big hole, especially coming back off deployment and going home again. So having a group of, like-minded people to really call a home has become very important to me. Especially now spiritually, like it's a much closer connection to, to people than, you may have been just friends with when you were serving. So yeah, definitely. I'd encourage any, like, of our former service members or, service members to look into the AFA and joining.
Yeah, we have, I think that's something that a lot of people may not realize, but we do have quite a big veteran community in the AFA. A lot of our members have been in the military. A lot of our members are still in the military, but we have a whole lot of veterans in the AFA, and we're very proud of that. Our last question that I see, Mr. Penner, did you use official AFA hair product Gorilla Snot for today's stream, or did you make Witten's Fawn proud and use something else? Thank you.
I can't remember what it's called, but it is neither. But I did shave and groom and do my hair and beard.
So the hair and beard look good, but I promise you they'd look better with some Gorilla Snot.
You have to invest in that then.
You do. Gorilla Snot is a fine product from south of the border. I forget what the Spanish, which is the prominent language on the packaging, says. Their Spanish language for, I think it's mocha de gorilla. Yeah, but Gorilla Snot is a good product. I have the Sport in my hair right now. It smells minty and is blue, and it holds rock solid. And you can reapply it if you wet your hands. It readjusts and rehardens. So there you go. So we have one more question that has come in. Stian, your baby boy is confused hearing your voice in the office, on the TV, and on my phone. He makes many squeaks.
Yeah, our puppy is very, very vocal. She's puppy sitting in the living room right now. So he's been a really fine addition to our family.
Is that the German Shepherd?
Yes. Yeah, my Newfie's 5. And that's also the same amount of brain cells that he has. So
I appreciate we got a translation over on the side. It's Moco de Gorilla. There you have it. Excellent. Well, go give your dogs some attention. We very much appreciate you having you on the program tonight. We would love to have you back. Thank you very much for being here tonight, Christian.
Thank you for having me, sir.
All right, guys. We will see you all, or talk with you all rather, next week. Until then, hail the gods, hail the folk, hail the AFA, and remember that victory never sleeps.